A simmering conflict between Eritrean separatists during the Ethiopian civil war escalated into a serious battle after the Ethiopian government annexed Eritrea in 1962. The war lasted 30 years, paving the way for Eritrea's independence in 1991. The new Horn of Africa nation aimed to be a country of one's own. 25 years on, little has been achieved. Eritrea has had only one president, Isaias Afewerki. Analysts say the once revered freedom fighter has turned into an iron-fist dictator. Natural disasters combined with Afewerki's repressive regime has resulted in Eritreans fleeing the country, seeking refuge elsewhere. The UN says the government has been forcing children below the age of 18 to join the national service indefinitely, backtracking on the statutory 18 months. Sheila Keith-Ruth is the UN Special Rapporteur on the situation of human rights in Eritrea.
A large proportion of those crossing the Mediterranean and using other irregular routes to reach Europe are Eritreans. They're fleeing a country ruled not by law, but by fear. The government should discontinue the indefinite national service by limiting it to the statutory 18 months. And it should stop the forced recruitment of children below the age of 18.
Human rights groups say Eritrea is a military state. Eritrean youth are frustrated and are leaving the country in droves. An Eritrean migrant living in Israel says he had no choice.
I was being persecuted. I was in prison. Also, I was being also to send like for punishment to the army. I was in army for 3 years. It was clear slavery. I'm not working for my country or for my people.
Hundreds of Eritreans who have sought refuge in Tel Aviv gather every week at a makeshift savior of the world church. The priest, Tesfum Abrahale, speaking about their plight.
We are just dying. We are being extinguished. We are being eliminated. The Eritreans, they get slaughtered by the ISIS. Yes, they die in the Mediterranean Sea. They die in the Sinai Desert. Yeah, they die everywhere, actually. But the attention they are getting from the world community is very minimum.
Thousands are making the perilous journey across the Mediterranean Sea, hoping for a better life in Europe. The Eritrean government says the mass exodus is as a result of an international conspiracy against Asmara. This past weekend, about 700 migrants, most of them from Eritrea and Somalia, perished when their overcrowded boats began to sink. An Eritrean shipwreck survivor talking to the Italian press after the ordeal.
If this is how people are traveling, I pray to God we find a solution. The risk is not worth it.
A UN Commission of Inquiry on Eritrea in 2015 indicated that Eritrean government engages in systematic, widespread and gross human rights violations, including restrictions on freedoms of the press, expression and movement. Addressing the UN General Assembly in New York in 2015, Eritrea's Foreign Minister Osman Mohamed Saleh accused the UN of being unfair.
Eritrea is committed to striving for a fair, just, truly representative and effective United Nations because it was and is now a victim of the United Nations and the powers that have dominated the organization.
He also differed sharply with human rights groups' reports saying the country is on the right path.
Today, Eritrea is making remarkable progress in building a nation based on citizenship and an inclusive state and the respect of human dignity and rights.
25 years after the protracted battle between Asmara and Addis Ababa, tensions remain. Political pundits say last week's independence celebrations were a sham. Eritrea's president, Isaias Afewerki, has vowed to remain at the helm, saying,
I will stay as long as it takes, but that's not my choice. It's not my preference. It has to be decided based on the situation on the ground.
Going by the number of people leaving the country, the situation on the ground remains shaky. Esther Githui-Ewart, VOA News, Washington.